And now for Calvary and the Via Dolorosa. This is what I like to call the finale. We're going to look at Christ's crucifixion and the archaeological sites around Jerusalem which support that. The red outline you see is the Antonia Fortress. The Antonia Fortress was built by Herod, and it was built to house the Roman garrison in Jerusalem. And we've looked before on the Temple Mount to show that it overlooked the Temple Mount and was strategically positioned there. But the Romans also built a road and several roads dividing Jerusalem. We looked at that in the quarters in the last earlier, and so that they could quickly be dispersed through the city if there was a problem. If you notice, the green circle is the Calvary that is represented today by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. If you'll notice too, the walls that surround the wall that is between the Antonia Fortress and Calvary. We're going to look at that. It's outlined in blue right now. This is just a little bit different view. Still all the same colors. There's the Antonia Fortress in red, what we'd call the inner wall in blue, and then the green oval is Calvary. You can also see from this angle the Temple Mount at a much better view of how there would be access from the Antonia Fortress to surrounding the Temple Mount. The black perforated line would be the Via Dolorosa. Jesus would have been tried and scourged by Pilate in the Antonia Fortress, and then down the steps of the fortress and through the city, taking this path. A slightly different view, but what is critical here is what Hebrews says about the event. In Hebrews 13, it says, "And so Jesus also suffered outside the city gate to make the people holy through his own blood." The concern of some skeptics was that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is not outside the gate. It's not outside the city walls. In fact, in the current city, it is not. It is inside the city walls. But what was missing is that blue line there. Those walls were destroyed long ago, and there's only remnants of them now in archaeological finds, and it would be the inner city wall. And once again, there's the Via Dolorosa. Now, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is what we're talking about in green. But there's also a belief in another location to have been the possible site of Jesus' crucifixion and burial. The pink represents that. If you notice, this is Gordon's Golgotha. We're going to look more detailed later when we come to the end of the Via Dolorosa. But if you'll notice, this site also meets the criteria for Hebrews 13. It's outside the city gate. Just another gate. This would be Damascus Gate. Now this is superimposed over the our prime view for the aerial view of Jerusalem, and the model on the right with the green, and then that dome on the left is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Now, if you look at the square up at the top, that's the Antonia Fortress, what's called Ecce Homo now, at the northwest corner of the Temple Mount. But you also see the pink showing where Gordon's Golgotha is now in the Old City. and Gordon's Calvary in the model. And that completes the view. Now, the blue is the inner gate, which I'm said is just has remnants of it in archaeological sites, and the red is the current gates now of the outer city. You see Gordon's Golgotha, and the aerial view is outside of the modern gates. So either site by Hebrews 13 would fit. Now that yellow is the very outer gates, outer walls rather, of the city, extreme outer walls during the 1st century. Now those are not existing now either. They were destroyed, and only are presumed the locations of that by archaeological sites too. And that would be the approximate location of that in the modern city, way outside of the existing walls in the yellow. That's just, we've brought it down to just the walls.